This is a shocking, yet mysterious family story about a 20-something Uzbek woman who came to the United States to earn money, fell in love with a 60-something American ranch owner, and became pregnant. Before you begin, please subscribe and like this video. It would be a great help to us. Nestled in the vast plains of Central Asia, Uzbekistan is a land where the scorching heat of the sun gives way to air so cold at night it can chill you to the bone. As a child, Nuragil grew up in Uzbekistan, roaming the green pastures and ochre-colored lands under a vast blue sky. Though she had a cheerful personality and a charming bright smile, her life was far from smooth. Watching her parents and siblings toil and sweat daily just to make ends meet, Nuragil decided to step out into the world earlier than others to escape poverty and an uncertain future. She considered migrating to other Central Asian countries, but ultimately chose the United States, where she could expect a better income. Despite her family's opposition and her own hesitation, she paid a large sum to a labor contractor, painstakingly secured a temporary work visa, and boarded a plane just after turning 20. When she arrived on American soil, she was filled with a mix of apprehension and excitement. Anxiety over whether she could truly earn money here to help her family clashed with the hope that she might be able to realize her dreams in a new world. However, once she set foot in the U.S., she was hit with the unexpected walls of reality. Besides the language barrier, there were many unscrupulous contractors who would cancel employment contracts or force her to work under unjust conditions. Amidst this, she heard that a ranch owner was in need of workers. Nuragil traveled across the country and arrived in a small farming town in California's Central Valley, where a vast agricultural landscape stretched out before her. What kind of person would greet her, and what kind of life awaited her there? In a rural town in California's Central Valley, a plain of endless almond orchards and vegetable fields unfolded. This area, with its fertile soil and complex irrigation, had long been the agricultural heartland of the state. The ranch owner Samuel "Sam" Walker, now 68 years old, had tried city life in Los Angeles and even dabbled in the construction business only to taste failure before eventually returning to his hometown to farm. His wife had passed away several years ago, and he had been living alone, but he was a man who had forgotten his loneliness by taking care of those around him, including the migrant workers. Sam's ranch was a complex operation, raising cattle and growing a variety of crops. In the center of the large property stood simple worker barracks, a mess hall, a large barn, and a warehouse-style processing facility. Over 30 American and migrant workers worked together, their nationalities as diverse as their backgrounds: Uzbekistan, Mexico, Guatemala, the Philippines, and more. Sam had a long history of officially hiring workers on H-2A visas, helping them and providing legal and administrative support to ensure they could stay in the country legally. Through these connections, he had become well known in the community, where people called him Mr. Walker, or simply Sam. However, the larger the ranch, the more problems could arise. Some contractors, known as coyotes, brought in undocumented workers through illegal means, taking huge fees or providing false information about wages. Sam tried to stop this, but it was difficult to block them all. So when he heard a new Uzbek worker was coming, he felt both a sense of unease and curiosity. That morning, after getting off at the Greyhound station and taking a cab near the ranch, Nuragil was walking briskly up a dusty road. Her large exotic eyes, bronze skin, and pure innocent impression were striking. The scenery was unfamiliar, but she could see other migrant workers already toiling in the fields. She greeted them with a quiet, "Salam, hello," but the only response she received was an awkward nod. When she reached the ranch office, Sam greeted her heartily. "Welcome. I heard you're from Uzbekistan. What's your name?" "Ah, my name is Nuragil. It's a pleasure to meet you." Watching her introduce herself earnestly in her broken English, Sam offered a gentle smile. "If anything is ever difficult, you just let me know. Our ranch is one of the better ones, so don't worry," he reassured her. She nodded with a bright expression, but at that moment, he had no way of knowing what stories the contractor had told her or how much she had been deceived. On the first night, Nuragil was assigned to the worker barracks. Other laborers from Central America and a few from Uzbekistan were already gathered. But strangely, the few who spoke her native Uzbek language seemed not to welcome her, but rather to be wary of her. "Why are you here? We're already short on hours." I just came to work." These workers had been scammed by contractors in the past and had suffered greatly. They were anxious that the newcomer Nuragil might bring similar or even more complicated problems or simply draw unwanted attention. It was also a simple case of hazing a newcomer. For some, Nuragil, who was not yet familiar with even basic English, was difficult to communicate with, making them feel uncomfortable having her around. The next morning, as Nuragil was preparing for work, she suddenly heard a loud voice from inside the room. A fellow Uzbek woman named Kara was speaking excitedly to another colleague. "Isn't she here to steal our jobs?" Another complained. "The foreman is already cutting our hours. What happens to us if the boss hires a new person?" When their eyes fell on Nuragil, the atmosphere instantly turned icy cold. Good morning. Just keep to yourself. Don't cause any trouble here." Nuragil's heart sank at their cold attitude. Her hopes for a fresh start had hit a massive wall on her very first day. For several days, Nuragil faced petty harassment from her colleagues in the workplace. They would send her on errands saying, "Go to that far shed and bring back some fertilizer," only for the needed item to be somewhere else entirely. They made her carry heavy loads by herself. When conversation was needed during work, they would deliberately speak quickly in a mix of English and Spanish, so she couldn't join in, or they would glance at her from behind and snicker. At first, she thought, maybe it's because my English is bad, but as time passed, she realized it was clear hazing. Nuragil couldn't understand why she was being treated this way when she had done nothing to harm them. She wondered why her colleagues hated her, confused about whether it was her fault or if they had their own reasons. One day on her way back to the barracks, after finishing fruit sorting, Kara the Uzbek worker openly mocked her. "You don't belong here. Don't think you can get away with anything just by cozying up to the boss." Tears welled up in Nuragil's eyes, but she bit her lip and held them back. "I'm trying my best. Why are they doing this to me?" Unaware of this, Sam assumed everything was fine on the surface and let it be. His ranch was so large that it was difficult to personally witness every minor conflict. Since Nuragil didn't show any signs of distress, he simply guessed, she must be having a little trouble adjusting. Then one night, Sam went out to check the main barn and happened to find Nuragil crying quietly in a corner. The inside of the barn was dark, the lights off, and bales of recently cut hay were piled high. "Is that Nuragil? Why are you sitting here in the middle of the night?" Startled, she looked up with unfocused eyes. Her eyes were red and swollen. Sam rushed over. "What's wrong? Are you sick?" he asked, shining his flashlight on her. At that moment, her suppressed emotions burst forth. "I'm having a hard time here," she sobbed. "My colleagues hate me." Her English was broken, but her desperation was clear. Sam's heart ached at the realization that he had been completely unaware of the hazing she was enduring. "I thought this was a place where everyone helped each other. I've been a poor manager," he chided himself. "Oh my, you've been suffering all alone without saying a word. I'm so sorry. I didn't know there was a problem between you all." Nuragil lowered her head, tears streaming down her face. With a generous heart, Sam helped her up. "It's chilly in the barn at night. Why don't we go to the office, get a cup of coffee, and talk for a bit?" he suggested. But she replied in a tearful voice, "If the others find out, they'll hate me even more." Sam thought for a moment, and then said gently, "It's all right. Leave it to me. I have no reason to call you out here just to scold you. Let's just rest for a bit before you go." And so the two of them sat on a couple of hay bales in a corner of the barn, talking quietly like thieves in the night. Sam listened carefully to the difficulties Nuragil was facing. "So that's what was happening. I'll keep a closer eye on things from now on, so don't worry too much." He comforted her, wanting to ease her pent-up emotions. Even a little, Sam stayed by her side, offering words of solace until late into the night. From that day on, Sam intentionally visited the work sites where Nuragil was observing the atmosphere and trying to mediate any conflicts. However, the hazing was subtle and entrenched among the colleagues, so it wasn't easily resolved. Instead, on the pretext of checking the barn each night, Sam would quietly call Nuragil over. "How was your day today?" he'd ask, offering small words of comfort. A few days later, as Sam was walking near the barracks, Nuragil quietly approached him. "Sir, would it be all right if I made some Uzbek food for you? I'm not very good, but eating lagman or plav gives me strength." Sam's eyes widened. Uzbek food. He was curious, but also worried that the ingredients and utensils might be unfamiliar. Nuragil smiled shyly. "There's that small kitchenette in the mess hall, right? I'll just make a little secretly late at night. It's food I used to eat, so I want to make it, even if it's just for myself." She was homesick, and in this foreign land where she had no one to lean on, she wanted to make her native food to comfort herself. Sam thought for a moment. "Well, since we're already talking in the barn at this hour, maybe I could bring a small, hot plate over," he said, tacitly agreeing. Since neither of them wanted to be seen by others, they decided to share a quiet meal in the barn late at night. And so, on a night when work was light, Nuragil used simple ingredients she had gathered to whip up a dish of lagman, a stew-like dish with noodles, various vegetables, and meat. Although the ingredients weren't perfect, and the taste might have differed from the authentic Uzbek version, Sam was impressed. "So, this is that famous Uzbek dish. The flavor is so unique. Is it too spicy for you?" "Oh no, I quite like a little spice. This is great. Warms you right up." The sight of the two of them sitting side by side in a corner of the barn at midnight eating lagman was a peculiar scene by any measure. Beads of sweat formed on Sam's forehead, and Nuragil, while cautiously asking if he was okay, smiled brightly for the first time in a while. That simple meal was a great comfort for the hazing she had endured. A few days later, she tried making pluf, a dish similar to Uzbek pilaf. This time, Sam had procured beef from a local butcher to substitute for the traditional lamb. "Lamb is the best for the original version, but what we have is good enough," Nuragil said, skillfully stir-frying the ingredients. Sam took a spoonful, and his eyes widened in surprise. "Wow, there's a dish like this too. It's so hearty and delicious, with all the carbs and meat," he exclaimed repeatedly. "You should eat a lot too," he added, concerned. "You must get so hungry while working." And so, every night they would secretly meet in the barn, share their day's work and worries, and quietly laugh while eating the Uzbek food Nuragil made. For her and for Sam, this gradually became a great source of comfort and joy. As their meetings in the barn continued, a subtle change began to occur between them. At first, it was a relationship between an employer and an employee, or a comforting elder and a troubled young woman. But as time went on, the texture of their emotions began to shift. Nuragil found herself increasingly relying on Sam's sincere kindness, his generous smile, and the steadfastness that emanated from the older man. Sam, too, found himself drawn to Nuragil without realizing it. Seeing her exhausted, he felt a desire to protect her, but the age gap and cultural divide between them forced him to be cautious. "What if I harbor foolish feelings and end up ruining this young woman's life?" he worried. But in those moments when they sat together, eating lagman and talking at night, Both of them could forget their worries and simply laugh. One day, Sam said, "I roasted some corn from the field today. Want to try some?" He offered his own version of a rural snack. Nuragil accepted with a shy smile. "I never had this kind of adventurous spirit when I was younger," Sam mused. "It seems to be blooming late in life." Gradually, they became a part of each other's lives. The conversations and meals they shared after work or late at night were warmer and sweeter than any luxurious date. However, the ranch was still a communal living space. The hazing from the others hadn't completely disappeared. In fact, Kara, the Uzbek colleague, grew more jealous and hostile, feeling that Nuragil was receiving special treatment from the boss. She would openly sneer, "I guess you think you can get anything you want by just pleasing the boss." Nuragil felt wronged, but didn't argue or fight back. She was afraid that making a scene would only cause trouble for Sam. She simply worked harder and endured, relying on their secret nighttime meetings in the barn. Sam tried to resolve the conflict, but he was careful not to openly take her side, fearing it would backfire. Then trouble erupted from an unexpected place. A theft occurred in the worker barracks. Money and a cell phone went missing from one of the American foreman's rooms. An investigation was launched and the sheriff's department was called. In the chaos, suspicion fell on Nuragil. A rumor spread that the new girl is suspicious, and Kara and her group fueled it, whispering that Uzbek girl might have a shady side. Nuragil was flustered. How could she prove she hadn't done it? The foreman searched her room, but no evidence was found. Still, the suspicious glances didn't go away. That night, she felt a loneliness more profound than ever before. She was too embarrassed to even tell Sam, so she swallowed her tears in a corner of the barracks. Finally, as the situation escalated, Sam stepped in. "I'm going to check the security cameras, so stop spreading baseless rumors," he declared loudly. After reviewing the footage from around the ranch, he found that another person had been loitering suspiciously near the barracks at the time of the theft. It was a worker from Guatemala who had been on the verge of being fired the previous week. Evidence emerged that he had stolen the items to sell them and flee. When the real culprit was identified, those who had suspected Nuragil were embarrassed and avoided eye contact, feigning ignorance. Sam announced publicly, "From what I've seen, Nuragil is the kind of person who stays quiet even when she's been wronged. It was this person who was the problem, so let's stop with the false rumors. Theft and violence will not be tolerated on this ranch." After that day, the hazing subsided. With Sam making his position clear in front of everyone, they realized that slandering her was tantamount to getting on the boss's bad side. While the problem wasn't completely solved, the overt bullying noticeably decreased. That evening, Nuragil quietly approached Sam. "Thank you so much, sir. I'm so grateful that you stood up for me." Sam scratched his chin, looking embarrassed. It was the right thing to do. I'm always on your side. Don't get me wrong." That one phrase made a small spark in Nuragil's heart burn brighter. One night after the theft incident had settled down, Sam once again called Nuragil to the barn. "Let's talk for a minute," he said. She hesitated for a moment, but eventually followed him quietly. This time, he had set up a small electric lamp and a portable table in a corner of the barn with 2 cups of coffee he had prepared. "The barn looks like a fancy restaurant, sir." "Haha, well, it's more like our secret hideout than a barn now, isn't it?" They sat facing each other in the neatly tidied space, not on the hay bales where they first met. The gentle aroma of coffee filled the air, and outside the occasional sound of crickets could be heard. Sam let out a small sigh and began to speak. "You've been through so much, but you've endured it well. At first I watched over you out of pity, but now I'm proud of you, and, well, how should I put this?" Nuragil's heart pounded as she looked at him. Sam, usually so boisterous, seemed to be struggling for words. After a moment's hesitation, he calmly confessed his feelings. "To be honest, I'm old, and my culture is different from yours. I don't know if I even have the right to say this to you, But when I'm with you, my heart feels at ease. I want to protect you. I wonder if it's right for an old man like me to feel this way, yet if by any chance you also have feelings for me, what would you think?" Nuragil's eyes widened at the unexpected confession. In a corner of her mind, she had faintly imagined such a moment, but now that it was reality, her heart felt like it would burst. Her face turned as red as a beet as she quietly nodded. "Yes, I like you too, sir. Thanks to you, I found the courage to live here. I'm so grateful. Maybe this is love, I'm not sure, but I'm happy." Sam's face lit up. Both of them knew that if this became public, they would face a flood of questions and criticism. How can they be together with such a large age gap and from different countries? It makes no sense. But that night inside the barn, it felt as if only the two of them existed. In that secret moment, they confirmed their feelings for each other, and whispers and laughter continued late into the night. The next day, Nuragil tried to work as usual, but her mind was in a daze. After sharing her feelings with Sam, it felt like the way people looked at her had changed. Some colleagues whispered as she passed, and Kara, her Uzbek colleague, once again sneered. "Look at her, she's the boss's girlfriend now. Life must be easy." Nuragil tried to ignore it, but the words stung. It was true that she had kept her job and escaped the hazing thanks to Sam's kindness. What would have happened if I hadn't relied on him? The thought crossed her mind, and she briefly wondered if this was the right path. That afternoon, another incident occurred. A large semi-truck passing by the ranch swerved and crashed into the side of a greenhouse, tearing a large hole in the structure and damaging the crops inside. Sam rushed to assess the situation, negotiated with the truck driver, and directed the workers on cleanup. Nuragil wanted to run and help, but some staff members treated her coldly. "It's dangerous here, stay out of the way. If you get hurt, it'll just be more trouble for everyone." But soon it was revealed that two Filipino workers who had been inside the greenhouse had sustained minor injuries. Sam called an ambulance and sent them to the hospital. The entire ranch was in a frenzy, and it became a situation where everyone, regardless of their past issues, had to cooperate. Nuragil also diligently helped clearing debris and gathering the injured workers' shoes and phones. Through this incident, many of the workers saw Nuragil helping actively without fear and began to change their perception of her. She's not such a bad person after all. She's surprisingly diligent. The injured colleagues also praised her, saying Nuragil had helped with translation and getting ready for the hospital, which made things much easier. After the greenhouse repairs were mostly finished, night fell, and Sam again asked Nuragil to meet him briefly in the barn. When she arrived, Sam was deep in thought. He handed her a small folded piece of paper. On it, written in his simple script, was a part of his past. "When I was young, I got married, but my wife passed away first. After that, my children left for the city. I've revealed my heart to you now, but honestly, I'm scared. I'm so old. Can I really take responsibility for our future?" Nuragil gently took his hand. "Sir, I didn't know what to do at first either. But I like this moment right now. They say age is just a number. I've seen it on TV sometimes. I feel like I survived because of you when I was struggling." Sam let out a deep sigh and smiled at the same time. "Then I guess I have to live more diligently. If you stay by my side, I think I'll be less afraid of getting old." On this day, their emotions overflowed and they held each other tightly. In the corner of the barn, filled with the faint scent of hay, a deep sense of excitement and relief mingled in their hearts. No matter how much they shared their feelings, reality was still reality. Nuragil's visa had a limited term, and it was uncertain whether the documents she received from the contractor were even legitimate. Moreover, when the time came for her to leave the country, their entire relationship could end in vain. Sam was deeply troubled by this. He eventually made inquiries with an immigration lawyer. He learned that to maintain legal residency, she would need a sponsor, and the most secure path would be through marriage, which would allow her to apply for a green card. He knew that for him, an elderly man to register a marriage with Nuragil, a woman in her 20s, would attract social prejudice, but Sam saw no other definite alternative to keep her safely in the country. One night, sitting opposite each other in the barn, again, Sam spoke carefully. "I don't know if you'll accept me, but I'm seriously thinking about marriage. That's the only way we won't have to be apart, and you can live here without anxiety." Nuragil felt her breath catch in her throat. Marriage, for her in her early 20s to marry a ranch owner in his late 60s, was an unimaginable thing. But at the same time, her heart had already leaned deeply toward Sam. "Do we really have to go that far, if it's a burden to you, sir?" She trailed off, but Sam shook his head with a determined expression. "It's not a burden. It's my duty. I feel that I'm the person who should take responsibility for you. I'm afraid that if I leave you in this uncertain state, you'll eventually have to leave, and I can't bear that thought." Nuragil didn't hesitate for long. "Then, yes, I want to get married too. If you truly love me, I want to be with you too, sir." Tears welled up in her eyes. The two quietly held hands, making a firm promise to each other under the night sky. The barn, bathed in the moonlight, became an even more intimate and cozy space, faintly illuminating their future. As they began preparing for the marriage, the biggest problem was the reaction of those around them. The news spread like wildfire throughout the ranch. "The boss is marrying that Uzbek girl. What's the age difference, isn't it over 40 years? People whispered. Some gossiped. "It must be for the green card. He feels sorry for her." But Sam didn't care. "I'm responsible for my own life, and I'm making my own choices. Let's not worry about what others say," he reassured Nuragil. Furthermore, the townspeople who had known Sam for a long time and some of the long-term employees on the ranch genuinely supported him. It's a good thing if Sam can be happy again. Nuragil is a really kind person. They look good together. These words of congratulations quietly spread. Kara, the Uzbek colleague, was frankly shocked. It was hard to believe that Nuragil, whom she had always looked down on, was marrying the boss. At the same time, her hazing now seemed pointless. She eventually approached Nuragil and said sarcastically, "So, are you the real lady of this ranch now?" Nuragil didn't shrink back as she used to. "It seems so. But I want to get along with all of you. We both came from Uzbekistan, so it would be nice if we could help each other." At her response, Kara was left speechless. A few days later, she offered a half apology, half acknowledgement. "I guess I was too harsh. Well, live a good life," she said, turning away coolly. The conflict was to some extent resolved. Despite the noise inside and outside the ranch, Sam proceeded with the administrative procedures for the marriage license. Even his children, who had initially asked, "Are you really going to do this, Dad?" eventually relented after seeing their father's firm stance. "If you're happy, Dad, that's all that matters." Once all the paperwork was in order, on the day of their small ceremony, Sam and Nuragil had a simple service at the county courthouse, followed by a backyard barbecue at the ranch. They invited the townspeople and ranch employees. Nuragil wore a simple white dress, and Sam was dressed in a clean suit. "Thank you all for celebrating with us," Sam said in his toast. "I never thought I'd find love again at my age, but this young lady has agreed to stay by my side, and I'm so grateful." People smiled brightly at his words, and Nuragil, letting out a small happy laugh, responded, "I'm the one who's grateful. Because of you, I now have a home and a family." Everyone applauded, and even the few who had seemed sullen couldn't help but smile. After officially becoming a couple, Nuragil kept busy balancing ranch work and housekeeping. About 3 months later, she felt a suspicious change in her body and went to the local clinic. The result was pregnancy. The due date was in about 8 months. A 22-year-old young mother and a late 60s father-to-be. Nuragil was overjoyed, but also worried about Sam's health. If we have a child, will he be around to watch them grow up for a long time? What if my husband suddenly falls seriously ill? A mix of complex emotions swirled within her, but she resolved to live the present to the fullest. When she told Sam the news, he burst out laughing, as if he couldn't believe it. "My goodness, to think I'd be a father again at this age. What a miracle," he said, his voice choked with emotion. After becoming pregnant, Nuragil tried to take it easy, but when the ranch was short-handed, she couldn't just rest. Sam insisted, "Don't do any heavy lifting, just do light work." Her colleagues were also much warmer and more considerate. "Be careful now. Take care of yourself." But another problem arose. The contractor reappeared. He began to threaten her, using the fact that he knew her immigration status was precarious before the marriage as leverage. "So you got married. I hear your husband is old. He won't last long anyway. If you don't give me money, one phone call to ICE, and you'll be deported, baby, or not," he said, applying mental pressure. Nuragil secretly confessed this to Sam. He responded firmly, "Don't worry about it. I'll handle this legally. You don't have to be threatened by scum like that." He did just that, consulting their immigration lawyer and reporting the contractor to the authorities for extortion. "I'll protect this ranch and our family, so you just focus on the baby." At Sam's steadfastness, Nuragil shed tears and nodded. At night, she would visit the barn again. They no longer cooked secretly or had long conversations, but she and Sam would sit and drink tea, calming their hearts. They were married now, so there was no need to meet in secret, but they wanted to steady their minds once more in this place filled with memories. As time passed and Nuragil reached her 8th month of pregnancy, her belly grew large and even walking became difficult. "You really need to rest now. I'll direct the workers. You stay home and get some rest," Sam strongly urged, but she didn't back down easily, wanting to help even a little. Meanwhile, the ranch was in the middle of harvest season, and they needed more hands than ever. Finally, Sam persuaded her insistently, "My heart won't be at ease if I let you work harder. Please listen to me." The other workers chimed in, "Ma'am, we'll handle things here. Don't worry." Nuragil reluctantly stepped back from the front lines, mostly handling paperwork and preparing simple meals. Meanwhile, the official investigation cornered the contractor. His past illegal activities came to light, and he was facing charges from several ranch owners and workers. "That bastard will be in handcuffs soon," Sam thought to himself, pouring all his energy into ensuring Nuragil could focus on her delivery. Then, a little earlier than expected, the labor pains began. It was around the 37th week of her pregnancy. In the deep of the night, Nuragil felt her stomach tightening severely and the contractions coming closer together. A panicked Sam immediately drove her to the county hospital. "Are you okay? Are you okay?" he kept asking. Nuragil replied, "I'm scared. But since you're here, my dear, I'm okay." After hours of pain in the delivery room, Nuragil finally gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The baby had exceptionally large eyes and dark black hair. Sam, who had been waiting outside, was guided by a nurse to see the baby for the first time. In that moment, he felt a joy so profound, it was as if the world had stopped. "I'm a father again." The doctor smiled. "The mother is also safe. Fortunately, there are no complications, and the baby is healthy." Tears streamed down Sam's face as he repeated, "Thank you. Thank you so much." Nuragil lay in the recovery room, her face pale, but she held the baby in her arms and managed a faint smile. "Our baby was born safely. I'm so grateful." After being moved to a hospital room, Sam held the baby and stared at him for a long time. "I'm so thankful you came to our family. Even though I'm old, I'll try my best to be a good father," he murmured. Hearing this, Nuragil reached out and gently stroked the back of his hand. And so the two of them, with a child that felt like a gift from heaven, marked the beginning of a new family. The ranch workers visited the hospital with gifts congratulating them. The townspeople, hearing the news, expressed their astonishment. That old Sam Walker had a new baby. Most were genuinely happy for them, and while some whispered, "Well, I'll be," it wasn't a major obstacle. As their life with the baby began, Sam and Nuragil grew even stronger. Nuragil dedicated herself to breastfeeding and childcare, while Sam, despite managing the ranch, would stop by the house several times a day to check on the baby. People around them remarked with wonder, "Sam looks young again. A child really changes a person." Then, one day, less than a year after giving birth, it was revealed that Nuragil was pregnant again. "No way, she hasn't even properly recovered." A doctor confirmed that there was indeed a baby. Sam was once again floored, but couldn't help but laugh. "Am I that amazing, or has another miracle come to us? Arpa." Of course, Nuragil's health was a concern. It was a short interval for recovery, and the doctor warned, the mother must not overexert herself. A second pregnancy can be even harder than the first. The family's worries grew, and this time Sam was even stricter about making her rest. Since she also had to care for their first child, the days were a whirlwind of activity. By the time their second child was due, the ranch's management system had become more stable. Sam had hired a full-time ranch manager, reducing his own role to overseeing the big picture. This allowed Nuragil to be relatively more at ease while caring for their first child and going through her second pregnancy. A few days later, the second birth was successful, and now the cries of two babies echoed through the ranch. Sam, in his late 60s, was now the father of two young children. Those around them expressed a mixture of amazement and envy. "Sir, you are truly blessed." The story of Nuragil, who came from a difficult environment in Uzbekistan and was now raising two adorable children, spread as a quiet, moving tale throughout the town. The ranch workers now treated her with respect and consideration, if not outright deference, calling her the boss's wife or ma'am. Even those who had initially hazed her would now greet her without hesitation as she walked by with her two children. "Hello. The children are looking more and more like you." As time went on, Sam's hair grew whiter, and the children slowly grew up learning to speak. The house became a small global village with a mix of English, Uzbek, and the Spanish spoken by many of the workers on the ranch. The children grew up bright and cheerful, basking in their parents' love. Nuragil, too, found stability. Freed from the hazing and the contractors' threats, she faithfully fulfilled her roles on the ranch and at home. Occasionally, she would miss her hometown and tearfully say she wanted to see her parents and siblings. Sam would try to arrange opportunities for her to go to Uzbekistan or connect with her family through video calls. They even planned a trip to Uzbekistan to see her family once the children were a little older. The lights in the barn still went out at night, but Sam and Nuragil no longer needed to go there as often to see each other freely. Still, sometimes like a nostalgic scent, the memory of those days would return, and they would go to the barn together. "Remember when we sat here and ate lagman?" they would reminisce. "I remember that time so well. We were both hiding and eating, talking every night. But thanks to that I can smile like this now. Sir, I mean my dear, thank you." Even after all that time, they would occasionally sit in a corner of the barn without any formality, drinking tea, or sometimes making Uzbek lagman or plov again. Time had passed, but their secret space and memories remained unchanged. A few years later, the children started kindergarten, and Nuragil's English skills had improved so much that she began to assist with some of the ranch management tasks. Sam started exercising to take care of his health and enjoyed his days playing with the children in a small vegetable garden. The community of migrant workers became even more diverse, turning the ranch into a veritable small international village. People of different nationalities worked together, and cultural exchange flourished. Whenever there was a county fair or a local farmer's market, Nuragil's Uzbek lagman and plov, now famous by word of mouth, became popular dishes. "This is so delicious. How do you make it?" other locals would ask. Nuragil would smile and say, "At first, I made it secretly in the barn. I'm so happy I can share it with so many people now." Sam and the children would watch her, their hearts full of pride. He would feel a surge of pride, wondering what paths his children would walk when they grew up. As Uzbek American children growing up with multiple languages and cultures, they would surely forge a new future different from the one their parents had walked. A little more time passed, and Sam passed the age of 70. His back was a little more stooped, and while he maintained his routine of waking up early to check the fields, he couldn't do the heavy manual labor he used to. Whenever he tried, Nuragil would stop him. "What if you get seriously hurt?" And the children would shout, "Be careful, Dad." Sam would flash a triumphant smile. "I'm still okay. This old man won't fall down so easily," he'd boast. But occasionally, when his back or joints ached and he was bedridden, the thought, "I really have gotten old," would fill him with complex emotions. The fear of leaving his young wife and children behind would creep in. Noticing this, Nuragil would gently touch her forehead to his at night and comfort him. "It's okay, we're together. We've lived well until now, so we'll do well in the future too." Her words were always a great comfort to Sam. Nuragil's warm demeanor and touch were like a magic potion that made him feel decades younger. In the days when they secretly cooked lagman in the barn, they were preoccupied with confirming their feelings for each other. But now they were learning the preciousness of living as one family encompassing their children and the entire ranch. By the time their second child entered elementary school, Sam and Nuragil's family was well known in and around the town as an unusual but warm household. Those who had initially said, "An international marriage with such a huge age gap. What's that about?" now said in unison, "That family is so happy together. The children are so bright and clever." Some still whispered behind their backs, "She probably married him for the green card." But over the long years, even that talk lost its credibility. The sight of Nuragil diligently working on the ranch, her devotion as a wife and mother, and Sam's responsible and healthy care for the children had left a good impression on everyone. At town barbecues or farm-to-table events, Sam's family would often be at the center, with Nuragil setting up a popular Uzbek food stand. At such times, people would joke, "I never knew old Sam had so much passion. His young wife must give him a lot of energy," and warm laughter would fill the air. One early autumn night, Sam headed to the barn with Nuragil. "Let's revisit our memories for a bit," he had suggested, taking advantage of a quiet moment after the children were asleep. When they opened the barn door, it was much tidier than in the old days. Bales of hay were neatly stacked, and in the center stood a small table and chairs. "This is the place where we first cooked and ate lagman, just the two of us." "That's right. You were sweating and saying, 'Wow, this has a kick.'" They both let out a soft laugh. Nowadays, they didn't need to cook in secret, but the feelings of those times remained a special memory. Nuragil poured warm tea from a small thermos she had brought. "I've been so busy with the kids, it's been a while since we had time just for the two of us. My dear, thank you so much. Everything is thanks to you." Sam waved his hand dismissively. "I'm the one who should be thankful. If it weren't for you, my life would have been stagnant here." Suddenly, moonlight streamed through a high window in the barn, illuminating the two of them. In that gentle light, the time they had spent overcoming past wounds and anxieties to build their present happiness flashed before their eyes like a panorama. "Our children will continue to grow up healthy and happy, right? As long as this old man is alive, I will protect their smiles." The story of an aging rancher and a young Uzbek woman creating a family might sound like something from a movie, but they had clearly arrived at this place by fiercely facing reality. The small efforts of a couple who sat in a barn every night to give each other strength overcoming conflicts, hazing prejudice and threats, had borne fruit. When they opened the barn door and stepped outside, the vast night sky was studded with stars. Sam briefly set down the walking stick he was using and took Nuragil's hand. He said in a low voice, "We don't have to hide our meeting anymore, and I hope you're no longer lonely. Even though you came from Uzbekistan, this is your home now." Nuragil smiled brightly and nodded. "Yes, it's my home. To me, you the children, this ranch and this town are a precious sanctuary." A gust of wind blew by, scattering fallen leaves. The two of them looked in the same direction, feeling each other's warmth. Looking back, the years they had spent together weren't long, but their weight was by no means light. The road ahead was still long, and they didn't know what trials might come as their children grew. Nevertheless, Sam and Nuragil already knew one thing for certain: as long as they had the sincere hearts that had protected each other across differences in language, culture, and age, they could overcome any obstacle together. And so the night on the ranch grew quiet again. Holding hands, they returned to their home, checked on their sleeping children's faces, and quietly looked at each other with a smile. The secret bond that had blossomed in the barn was now shining brightly, continuing a beautiful family drama that blended the sentiments of Uzbekistan, America, and a rural farming community. Thank you for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and like.